The morning air cut like a knife, a bone-chilling cold that sunk deep into your marrow, making you forget sunshine even existed. Frost spiderwebbed across the grimy windows of the shuttered stores along Bleecker Street. And the smell of day-old coffee and exhaust fumes hung heavy in the air, drifting from the all-night greasy spoon down the block. The sun was just barely peeking over the horizon, painting the sky in dull shades of grey and sickly orange, but there wasn't a single scrap of beauty in it for those of us who'd spent yet another night on these unforgiving streets. Emily Carter was 22, her dark hair matted and greasy, unwashed for probably a week. Her clothes, donations from 3 winters ago, hung loose on her frame. She sat huddled against the cold brick wall of an abandoned laundromat, her threadbare jacket pulled tight, desperately clinging to any remaining body heat. In her pocket, just 3 crumpled dollar bills, all she had in the world. She'd been saving them for 2 days, skipping meals, telling herself she'd use them for something important. She just didn't know what yet. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, if you believe in second chances, and standing up for what's right, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to this channel. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from too. Stories like this prove that the people who have the least to give are often the ones who give the most. Emily heard him before she saw him, heavy footsteps, slow, unsteady, pounding the sidewalk. She looked up, and her heart skipped a beat in her chest. He was a mountain of a man, easily over 6 feet tall, arms like tree trunks covered in faded ink. His leather vest sported the unmistakable red and white patches of the Hells Angels. His face was weathered and rough, a beard that looked like it hadn't seen a pair of scissors in months. But it was his eyes that stopped Emily cold. They weren't the eyes of some predator, but the eyes of someone who hadn't eaten in days. He stumbled past her, then stopped. He leaned heavily against the wall a few feet away, his hand pressed tight to his stomach, his breath coming in short, shallow gasps. He looked even worse than she did. Emily should have been scared. Everyone warned her that men like him were dangerous, that bikers were criminals, thugs, people to avoid at all costs. But her dad, bless his soul, had taught her something different. He taught her to look past the labels, to see the person underneath. And what she saw right now was another human being, starving. She stood up slowly, her legs stiff from the cold, and walked over to him. The man looked up, suspicion flashing in his eyes. "I ain't looking for trouble," he growled, his voice hoarse and weak. Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out the 3 crumpled dollar bills. She held them out to him. "There's a greasy spoon around the corner," she said quietly. $3 will get you coffee and a muffin. It ain't much, but it's something." The man stared at her hand, like he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. He looked at her threadbare jacket, at her worn-out shoes, at the cardboard box behind her that served as her bed. He understood immediately. "You're homeless," he said. "This is all you have." Emily nodded. "But you look like you need it more than me." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, something shifted in the man's face. The hardness seemed to melt away, replaced by something raw and vulnerable. He took the money from her hand, his fingers rough and calloused. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Emily," she said. "Emily Carter." He nodded once, deeply, like he was making a promise. "My name's Bear, and I won't forget this, Emily Carter. I will not forget you." He turned and walked towards the diner, and Emily went back to her spot against the wall, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, or the best decision she'd ever made. The next morning, Emily was woken by a sound she'd never heard before, a deep rumble, like thunder rolling across the sky. Except it didn't stop. It grew louder and louder, until she could feel it vibrating in her chest. She opened her eyes and froze. Motorcycles, dozens of them, maybe 100, big chrome Harleys lined up along the entire block, their engines idling in perfect unison, leather vests everywhere, red and white patches blazing in the morning sun, and walking towards her, at the front of them all, was Bear. But he didn't look like the broken man she'd helped yesterday. He stood tall and strong, his eyes clear, his presence commanding. The other bikers parted for him like he was royalty. Emily scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. She didn't understand what was happening. Bear stopped in front of her and smiled. It was a gentle smile, completely at odds with his fearsome appearance. "Emily Carter," he rumbled, his voice steady and warm. "Yesterday you gave me everything you had. $3, your last $3. You didn't know me. You didn't owe me anything, but you saw someone in need, and you helped, without asking for anything in return." He gestured to the bikers behind him. "These are my brothers and sisters, the Hells Angels. And we don't forget when someone shows us kindness. Your family now, Emily, and family takes care of its own." What happened next would change Emily's life. Forever. The bikers had come prepared, trucks pulled up behind the motorcycles, loaded with supplies, warm winter clothes in her size, boots that actually fit, blankets, sleeping bags, a tent, bags filled with food, enough to last for weeks, and that was just the beginning. Bear handed her an envelope. Inside was more money than Emily had ever seen in her life, enough for first and last month's rent on an apartment, enough to get back on her feet. She tried to refuse. She couldn't accept this, it was too much. Bear shook his head. "You gave me $3 when that was all you had in the world. Do you have any idea what that means? Most people with $100 in their pocket wouldn't have given me a dime, but you, with nothing, gave everything. That's the kind of person the world needs more of, and we're not going to let that person sleep on the street." Tears streamed down Emily's face as the bikers surrounded her, not with threats, but with kindness. Women from the club wrapped a warm jacket around her shoulders. One of the men handed her a hot cup of coffee. Another gave her a business card. "My sister runs a shelter downtown," he said, "but this card is for a job. She's looking for someone to help at the front desk. If you want it, it's yours. No interview needed. Consider it done." Emily couldn't speak. She just stood there, sobbing, overwhelmed by a kindness she had never expected to receive. Bear put a hand on her shoulder, gentle despite its size. "You're one of us now," he said. "If you ever need anything at all, you call this number, day or night. We'll be there." Because that's what family does. 1 week later, Emily moved into a small studio apartment, just 3 blocks from the homeless shelter where she now worked. It wasn't much and just 1 room, with a tiny kitchenette. But it was hers, warm, safe, a place to finally call home. After so long, on her wall, she hung a single photograph, a cherished memory. It showed her standing proudly, in front of what seemed like 100 motorcycles, surrounded by the Hells Angels, and she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in years. That genuine smile lit up her whole face. On the back of the photo, someone, probably Bear, had written a simple but powerful message. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you have nothing. A reminder that family comes in unexpected forms. And before we wrap things up, we have a special request for you, a chance to join the movement. Comment below with the words, "Kindness returns." Let's show Emily, and everyone who has ever given their last to help a stranger, that their compassion doesn't go unnoticed, because sometimes the smallest act of generosity, a given when you have almost nothing left, can change not just one life but 2. It can ripple outwards, creating waves of positivity. Remember, the true measure of a person isn't what they give when they have plenty, but what they give when they have almost nothing at all. Think about that for a moment.